Once you kill a man for revenge, there's no going back. A voice in your head sang over and over, "That was awesome."
Who are you?
Drebin. Detective Frank Drebin. Thanks.
Well, after about 30 years since the last Naked Gun, we have gotten another one, and this time it is with Liam Neeson, of all people. And, did it work? Well, we'll see. So, when I heard that they were going to do another Naked Gun movie, like a reboot, sequel, when I just heard Naked Gun was involved and that Seth MacFarlane would be executive producing it, I'm going, if you watch, stuff like Family Guy, he's a big fan of not just Naked Gun, but like the Zucker films. So like Naked Gun, like Police Squad, like Airplane. I think they even made like a Top Secret joke. So it was kind of like all right, I think he would understand like what makes the original funny, and we need to make sure that we keep that going, and that Liam Neeson was going to be in it. And I'm like, okay, like, we'll see how this goes. But then one of the writers and the director was Akiva Schaffer, who has done a lot of stuff with Andy Samberg, mainly with like Lonely Island stuff, but also worked on his show, was it Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I haven't watched all of it, but I've seen some episodes, and it's surprisingly funny. And I'm not really into sitcoms, so it's like, okay, like this is actually pretty funny. So when I heard that they were all coming together to make a new Naked Gun movie, I'm like, okay, I'm keeping, expectations low, but we'll see what happens. So then the movie came out, and it, for the most part, worked. So that's how I heard that they were doing this. And first things first is this is a sequel, because Liam Neeson plays Frank Drebin Jr., Leslie Nielsen's son. And so I was like, all right, well, that's kind of reassuring. They're not fully like remaking this thing. It feels like a reboot, but at the same time, it's not. It's a hidden in plain sight sequel. So it's kind of one of those like, okay, we need to bring the Naked Gun into modern day, but still have that same, like what made the originals funny and funny, comedic, and also, classics. And, I would say for the most part, they did a good job with it. So movie is about Liam Neeson, who plays, as I said before, Frank Drebin Jr., and he's following in his father's footsteps, and he works to solve a murder case that Pamela Anderson puts him to the task, but also to save his police department from closure, or saving his police department from turning into a spirit Halloween, which I thought was really funny. So, if you look at it from, the surface, its plot is nothing special. It's, I got to solve the case, or we got to save the school, or save this. And it's like, okay, we've seen this stuff before, but you also got to remember that this is a Naked Gun movie. So, the stories are really dry in some parts. But what I think is really cool about this is the comedy in it. They do keep a lot of like the same, like slapstick, satire, bumbling parody stuff that the like original Police Squad or Naked Gun movies do, but they change it just enough to that it's new. So it's kind of like bringing in the old, where it's bringing in the new, but also satisfying the old, but also respecting the old. So I really liked how they did that. They definitely thought this way out and was going, all right, well, the comedies help what make it Gun funny. And they're like, okay, let's not repeat a lot of the same things they do, but that kind of humor. And so it still has that kind of mentality of, like, if you watch the original Naked Guns, there was probably parts there where they were just like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we just did this? Like, wouldn't that be funny? And it feels like they kind of did the same thing here, where it was like, hey, you know what would be funny if we just did this? This would be funny. So I appreciate the comedy, because the comedy was pretty funny. And also, next, you know, Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson, you wouldn't expect them to actually work well together. They actually do a pretty good job together. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you know, Liam Neeson at this point, you know, he's done a lot of those, like, almost like forgettable action films. So this is kind of parroting that, where he's like, yeah, I'm at this point in my career where it's just like, yeah, I just, you know, let's just have fun. Let's have fun with this. And the same thing with Pamela Anderson. And it was like, wow, this works. So I think casting was pretty good. The fact that they all commit, because that was something that was funny about the originals, was the fact that a lot of them were actors who have, you know, done more like dramatic in the spotlights type stuff. And you really wouldn't see them doing something like this. And they play it so straight. And with this one, they're doing the same thing. Like, they're playing it straight. And that's always funny. Now, one kind of negative I do have with, you know, casting is, as much as I like Danny Huston, he plays that typical, you know, I'm the villain thing that he does in a lot of different movies. You know, like the Crow remake, where he's like, I'm the bad guy, but I have supernatural powers. Or you go back to something like X-Men Origins Wolverine, where he's playing Stryker instead of it being, I think it was Brian Cox from X-Men 2. And it was like, yeah, you're just the villain. I know you are. And he kind of hits the same ticks. So it was kind of like, all right, you really kind of nothing new with villains, nothing that we haven't seen before. So, like, oh, okay. So, but, you know, also there are a ton of cameos in this movie, like a ton. Like, we got, you know, like Busta Rhymes comes in for a scene. We have Cody Rhodes as in a scene where he's playing a bartender. And, you know, it was just kind of one of those, like, hey, like, that's kind of cool. They're in this. So, you know, I think overall, you know, it had the task of, okay, how can we bring this into the modern age, but still be respectful and you know, and we love the original. How can we bring that into the modern day? And they do a pretty good job with it. Some minor flaws here and there, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's a Naked Gun movie. And honestly, if the comedy is working, which a lot of the comedy does work in this, not always, but it does work for the most part, then, you know what, it succeeded. And, you know, I always look back at the original Naked Gun, and there's still a lot of moments in it that make me just laugh out loud. And I'm not really one for a lot of comedies. It's weird. Like, me and comedies, it's I have to have a specific sense of humor. And, you know, I grew up watching, you know, like something like Army of Darkness, where that one was full on slapstick. And, you know, or looking at something like the old Looney Tunes or Three Stooges, where it was like, that was their whole shtick. And it was really funny the way they were doing it. So, do I think, you know, this was, you know, amazing? No. But do I prefer, like, the originals over this one? I would say the first one, because the first one was kind of like, it set the bar and it was running. But, you know, the sequels I've seen, but it's just been a long time. So personally, I give this one a fun, watchable great. You know, it's one of those where it's like, you know, I saw it. Would I really have the desire to rewatch this one? Probably not. But at the end of the day, you know, it still succeeded. And it was a surprise, like, wow, that actually was funny. That worked. And I don't know if they said anything about a sequel, but, you know, we'll see. And also that Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson started dating because of this movie. So, you know, I guess everything worked out.
Nobody messes with Police Squad.
That's the sound of the We've upgraded your car with the most advanced crime-fighting tech.
Drive forward 30 feet. Pretty smooth.
Oh!
This place is falling apart.
That's the sound that